There, we're live. All right. Welcome. Welcome. It's a Monday.
It is a Monday. Although, right now, we are not having any technical difficulties, which we usually do. So, happy Monday.
Fingers crossed, no promises.
Right.
Um, as I say that, Instagram's lagging. There we got Instagram. All right. Well, welcome everyone. Welcome to those of you that are watching us live, and welcome to those of you who are listening. And how are you, my lovely co-host?
I am good. It was a Monday. It was a long Monday. I did some extra side work after I got home. So, yeah. So I'm just now, and we had our YouTube now. So here we are. But yeah, no. So it's starting to get chilly finally ish here in Texas.
Do, do we really want to compare temps?
Mm-mm,
Because
mm-mm.
I'm a lot colder than you are.
Right? I see you have your Halloween
I
top
do.
on.
My
Yeah,
lovely little shirt that you bought me.
I did. I sent it to her. It was so cute. I couldn't resist. We have matching shirts. We can do that because we live in different states. So it's,
Right.
yeah. Anyway,
It was
everybody's like, what are you guys doing tonight?
it was one of those we were Halloween themed, so I thought I would wear my Halloween
Right?
shirt. But it was one of those purchases that after we were on a Zoom and just chit chatting with Terry Bradshaw that we went shopping together and yeah,
We did.
virtually shopping together.
We did. I was going in and out of these little boutique shops. And I'm like, I had Becky on, and I was like, I'd walk in and like, hi, can I help you? No, me and my friend are shopping. And we did that for quite a while. That's what happens when your best friend is miles and miles away.
Absolutely.
Too funny. Well,
I
anyway,
know.
so how was your weekend?
It was a weekend. Um, it was, yeah, it was long, um, but it'll all work out. It'll be fine. But that just goes to
Well,
show that we're not 10 feet tall and bulletproof, right? We're human.
right,
We go through things just like everyone else that is listening to us goes through things. So, but
absolutely.
it'll all work out.
So, we have an interesting topic tonight. Healthy Halloween habits, spooky fun without the sugar crash. And I thought it would be a good topic considering it's going to be trick or treat this week.
I know that's my husband was working on his paperwork and he's like, Friday is Halloween, and I'm like, yeah, and my weekend was a little chaos, and so I didn't necessarily plan my shopping the way I would normally plan my grocery shopping, and so of course my first thought, right, was, oh my gosh, I didn't get the kids candy, and I don't have stuff for Halloween for Friday, and my mind just started to go back to old habits
Ah,
instead of new habits and new routine, creating and, you know, even like making homemade cookies, right?
right,
It doesn't have to be, the candy bars and all of that, right? The
right.
excess sugar, right? Which we'll end up and we'll get into that whole side of things. But that was just the natural instinct when he brought that up. It's like, oh crap, I
Mhm.
completely forgot about it. And so, yeah, I took a breath and I remembered that you have the ability to make things, right, that aren't
Right.
going to end up and one allow it, so two things. They're not going to derail me, right? They're still going to allow me to enjoy and make memories with the kids instead of sitting from the outside, right?
Mhm. Mhm.
Because I don't eat a lot of, sugar and candy and junk. Not to say that I haven't or that I won't eat a piece of cake occasionally or, something like that. But it's still that fact of if I bought it store bought, right? Like what I ended up and told him was those little cookies that had like the pumpkins in them, the little sugar cookies that had like pumpkins and ghosts and, that are like full of a bunch of crap, right?
Right.
Instead of just making the cookies.
Yeah. Yeah.
And so, that was where my mind went was, oh my gosh, I'm not going to end up and have those instead of make the dumb thing, you know?
Right.
So,
Well, and in all honesty, if you think about, we have a Halloween this week, and this is kind of the kickoff to the next few months of a lot of holidays. And this is a good time to sit back and reflect about how you are going to handle it. And I thought it would be, let's start with the first one, right? Let's start with Halloween. Like, can you rewrite that narrative?
mhm. Well, and we also have time change coming up,
Yeah.
so that ends up and plays into the immune side. It plays into, the mood side. Well, if you're also consuming a lot of sugar and, junk filled foods, that makes a difference on that side as well when we're talking about the mood and the stability going into these last few months of, darker earlier and, just the transition that we are looking at as we head into fall and the seasons. So holiday
Right.
seasons.
Well, and you know, the problem I think that most people fall into is that myth that it's, oh, quote, just one night,
Yep. Yep.
right?
And that's where they start off with Halloween, and next thing you know, the mindset turns into I'll just restart in January.
Yeah.
Right? Because like I said, you start with Halloween, well then we have Thanksgiving and some people are already starting, family holidays, right? Because they
Mhm.
have maybe, multiple sites that they're going to. They're
Right.
starting already, well, and Nebraska folk, we end up and we also have hunting season. Well, typically around
Yep.
here, people will get together, opening weekend and have, all the hunters together, right? And I do it too. We have friends that are coming up from Georgia next week.
Oh,
And
they're coming.
so, yeah.
Yeah.
And so, granted, they have their own house, but we still end up and get together. Usually we'll do soup. Sometimes we'll end up and do, a steak supper or something like that. But it's transitioned from what it used to be,
Right.
right? It used to be almost an every night thing, and that would throw my circadian rhythm off. That would throw because it was late night and just different in routine. Love them all dearly, but I enjoy also the time that we do get together. And like I
Right.
said, it makes a difference on the domino effect, right?
Mhm.
As far as the holidays go. And so if you're eating things like the sweets and the desserts and the sugar spike that we end up when we get, it just you go from this sugar high, right?
Yeah.
And then you kind of come crashing down and it truly ends up and makes a difference hormone wise.
Yeah. Well, and you can make memories that really don't have to revolve around sugar, right?
Mhm.
And let's dive into that. Let's talk about, what are some things that you can do to make memories, right? But not it to be about, candy, candy, more candy, and then some more candy, you know.
Mhm.
Um, what about a scavenger hunt? I don't know.
Yeah. And that's where, like obviously my kids um
Right.
we end up when we do like coloring, we'll do, even they love dressing up in their costumes, and just having like a dance party in their costumes. Yes, we
Yeah.
normally will do like the cookies and stuff, but that we're dancing and we're having that type of thing, and we'll color Halloween related pictures and just all of that type of thing. One year we made like witches brooms where we took construction paper and cut it so it kind of looked like the broom part,
Yeah.
and then we ended up and made the handle, and they would fly around, run around with their brooms. And so I mean there's that type of thing. Also obviously it's outside activities are weather dependent for us, because it's not uncommon in years
Right.
past that we've had snow on Halloween. So that makes a difference too.
Back when I used to live up north, I remember when my daughter was little, and one year I had to put her in. She was in her Halloween costume, but she had her snowsuit over Halloween costume, and I'm pulling her in the wagon, and we're going trick or treating. Yeah, it was cold, but you know, like you said, dance parties and neighborhood costume parades, spooky scavenger hunts. That, believe it or not, that's a dopamine. Like that's an excitement. That's fun
Mhm.
without the sugar crash.
Right. Well, and
It's
yes, we're fortunate this year that it's on, a Friday night, but then you end up with crabby kids all weekend because one, late night
yeah,
sweets have that insulin spike, but you also end up and have the cortisol because you're running around and you're, got the body temperature and everything going up. And so it's very stimulating instead of, like bonfire ghost stories or, things like that.
yes, pumpkin painting, right?
Yeah.
You can get the little tiny pumpkins and have kids paint them. I mean, and like you said, tell ghost stories and just, again, fun stuff. A bonfire if you're in a place where you can have a bonfire.
Mhm.
So you can do things to create a non-food tradition, and that's kind of the mindset I think that you and I are hoping that we're helping folks out to look at all of these different holidays coming up and how to change the narrative.
Yep. Yep, exactly. And that's, the other thing that kids really enjoy is those little glow sticks.
Yes.
So, running around like after dark, that, parents can sit at a bonfire and give the kids those glow sticks and,
Right.
you know, let them go on their way, right? But yeah, there are different things. You can have game nights. It doesn't always have to revolve around food.
Right.
Photo booths, right?
Yep.
Like my daughter has one of those Polaroid cameras. Kids end up and love that, or even adults love that, right? So there's
Oh,
definitely things that can be
definitely.
done.
Yeah, and I mean, again, if you are in that healing journey, right? Um, you have to also look at the emotional triggers when it comes to Halloween. We're going to use Halloween for this. Like it stirs up that nostalgia. Um, is it loneliness? Is it a desire to fit in? Um, Identifying the emotion of the trigger can help with not diving into the candy, right? What is that root cause that's causing this? What is that mindset that says, oh, it's just one night, who cares? And it turns into, the first of the year.
Yep. Well, and again, it's that sugar that is lighting up those receptors, right?
Yes.
And it's messing with all those neurotransmitters. And so after, a spike of dopamine, right, the reward signal or reward
Hmm.
chemical, and after sugars, whether it's on us or even on kids, you start to become very irritable. You have the emotional ups and downs. And so then you're kind of chasing that. And that's why then you end up, nose deep in it even further, is because you're like, I want to feel good, right?
Right.
Maybe you have, instead of brain fog, it's a sugar fog,
Yeah.
right? Or the sugar ends up and cause you to have a restless night of sleep, and it's very disrupted. And so then you're chasing that. And the other thing that starts to happen this time of year that a lot of people don't contribute to sugar necessarily is our immune systems.
Mhm.
So, there are studies out there that show even just 100 grams of sugar, which people are like, oh my gosh, I would never end up and eat 100 grams of sugar, right? That's a handful of candy.
Yeah.
So how many times, are you trick or treating with kids, or you're grazing or having a party, and, you've ate the equivalent, and just that handful can reduce the white blood cells ability to fight the infection up to 40% for several hours. So there are several studies out there that are, in regards of the immune system. And a lot of people, as we kind of pivot and transition, into these shorter days, they end up and they look at, oh, it's just cold and flu season. Well, it's one, we're not getting the sunlight like we normally do, but we're also consuming other foods as we're going through this holiday season that is driving our cold and flus.
Yes.
So, you know, again, that means for like 5, 6 hours after eating sweets, your immune system is shut down essentially.
Right. It
So,
disrupts, right? It disrupts
yeah,
the gut,
yeah,
and the brain signaling, and that, and then all of a sudden you even have a dopamine resistance, right? In other words, well, I need
seek
more
more and more
sugar
and
to
more.
more and more, right, to feel better, and believe it or not, it actually can dull the natural joy and reduce your movements, and you start losing that connection with real food, and next thing you know, you're just down this slippery slope, and we're sliding into, Thanksgiving and then Christmas, all these holidays, with especially, all these get-togethers and things like that. And how do you rewire the brain? How do you tell people no? Do you have any tips for that?
So, in regards of telling people no, well, typically I will end up and bring food, right?
Mhm.
Um, and so they don't always necessarily, as long as you're consuming something, they don't necessarily pay attention to what you're
Right.
truly consuming, right? Unless they're, with a platter in your face. And then, if you have even just like a small pie plate, sure, take one, put it on your plate. Doesn't mean you have to end up and eat it, right? If it's going to end
Right.
up and be tempting to you, then eat before you go, and say, you know, I choose not to, or no, thank you. A lot of people, though, also food and the gift of giving is their love language, so they may end
Mhm.
up and feel hurt if you don't. But that's where you can come up with other things to
Mhm.
say in I'll
Yeah.
end up and I'll grab a bite of that in just a minute. I'm heading here, and then walk over or something, and you know
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. You can sidestep things for sure. And I mean, even if you get the emotional, well, grandma's going to be hurt if you don't eat her
Mhm.
X, when it's like, well, grandma doesn't want me to be overweight like I am. So, you know, which is it? I don't know. Um, but people like it when you also join in to their bad
Yeah,
habits. So be mindful of that as well.
yeah, they end up, and it helps them to feel better about their choices when
Mhm.
they bring a group along, right?
Right.
They're like the little crabs in the bucket. They don't want that person, sneaking away or sneaking out. They want to end up and peer pressure of, here, you know, here, have a bite.
Right.
So
Right. And again, what happens if you blow it? What do you do?
start right back over.
Very next meal.
Yep.
Very next meal. Not tomorrow, the very next meal. So if you have candy Halloween night, You know what? I I was that parent where I would let the kids pick so many pieces, and I mean, my husband and I used to attack their Snickers bars. Like, I remember the day, but we would let them pick like so many, so we didn't have that stuff that was constantly there,
Hmm.
right? Now, thank goodness we live in the middle of nowhere, so there's not going to be any trick or treaters. But I'll tell you what, in all honesty, I haven't bought candy, and even when we did live in the Houston area, I never bought candy. Now I had some kids that would come and I would buy them little books. And do you remember that when I would get them little
Hmm.
books and little I'd go to the dollar store and get them a couple little things and they were so excited and not get a candy. I've seen one recently where it was like, so let's say you have, 25 trick or treaters and that's it. Give them $1. Do you know
Yep.
how excited a kid would be getting $1? Wow.
Yep. Exactly. And yes, I do end up and remember that. It was always, so cute to end up and see the stuff that you would get for them. But it,
Yeah.
yeah, there's ways around. I mean, the holiday for sure,
Yeah,
as we
definitely.
end up and we navigate it. But
Yeah, and you can again, it's it isn't about Halloween, right? It's about healing. And what is you got to go back to your why. You got to go back to what is so important to you that that one night just isn't worth it. Do you have that deep rooted, um, I don't know,
that,
vote?
let's just say that drive,
Yeah,
looking at the bigger picture, right? That drive of what do you want, what's in the moment, or do you want what you are, working towards?
right.
And so it's that case of instant gratification, right? That this is going to make me happy in the moment, but is it going to end up and make you happy tomorrow? Is it going to make you happy a week later? Is it still progressing you towards your goal, right? That's what we're looking
Yeah,
at is sustainability, right? And so what is going to continue moving that needle towards your goal that you are after? And, that's where, again, sometimes it has to be that hard realization as far as what is it, right? It is one, maybe not, but there again, if you're addicted to it,
right,
right, one is never going to end up and be enough, right?
right. Well, and can you reframe the treat?
Yeah.
I mean, that'll tell you a lot about yourself. And I mean, what was it? A couple years ago, my girlfriends and I do this annual cookie bake. And so let's have a keto slash carnivore slash on a healing journey woman who is a type 2 diabetic go to cookie bake. And I do every year. And I did great. The first year I didn't have it. I resisted the whole time. The second year, do you remember that, Becky?
Hmm.
I went and I'm like, "Oh, I'm gonna have it's her grandmother's sugar cookie recipe," and I was like, "I'm gonna have sugar cookie." And once I started, I literally couldn't stop, and I went off the rails eating. Oh darn, those are broke, and I'll eat those. And oh darn, that one broke, and I went off the rails like bad. Um, that was the second year. The third and fourth year, I've done way better. And I know now going into it this year, because I'm already thinking that far in advance, is that a choice that I'm going to do? Is it that important? Because I'll tell you what I found the last 2 years is everything I thought I wanted never tasted that good
Yeah.
from what I remembered, which it was very eye opening.
Which again, it's those those taste buds and those
Yep.
receptors that are changing, right? And as you end up and start to realize what, what true nutrition, true food
Yep.
tastes like,
Yep.
it makes a difference. And yeah, that's, you may end up, getting to a point in your journey that you are able to, have that cookie. And I've talked about this on, other podcasts of ours where, I'll end up and I'll have a piece of cake, or I'll end up and I'll eat, like even for my niece's wedding, right? I had my mom's cream cheese mince.
Mhm.
It's those type of things. Do I
Yeah.
advocate it? No. But it's a case of, as I've also got less restrictive, I am able to moderate better. And so, where when I was very restrictive, it was like just that taste would end up and send into a binge. But now that, I've kind of allowed other, macronutrients in, right? My body is like, okay, it doesn't get the same rush, I guess. So I'm able
Yeah.
to, have one and done. But
Yeah.
was I at that place 5 years ago? No.
Yeah. Well, and some other tips that you could do is delay that impulse, right? When that craving hits, set a timer for 10 minutes and go for a walk. Or a lot of times, if you can divert your attention to something else, that urgency fades and the clarity returns, right? You start to think a little bit better. Um, Name the emotion. What are you feeling right now? Because if you name it, it loses its grip on what you're perceiving, right? If I can go, well, am I really hungry? No, no. Is it because everybody around me is eating the birthday cake, or, we've got, oh, the really good candy bars out for Halloween and everybody's eating it? Name that emotion, right? Um, Stop for a second and ask yourself, is this going to nourish me now, and later? Um, and engage your senses. Do you know that what the smell of cinnamon does? And I know you can go down that rabbit hole with the essential oils.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, there's definitely different smells that can light up or calm different
Yep.
properties of the body. And that's where, we can even talk next week on our roundtable, because I know Coach Sly is one that will use the HALT, right? The different
Mhm.
acronyms as far as, ways to navigate through a holiday season too. So maybe, we'll end up and we'll bring that up next week as well. In regards, because there are a few different ones. So it's a case of, which one do you resonate with? What are you in? But yeah, the different smells and the whole, once we are smelling them, it can end up and take us back, but it can also either calm, like there's certain like for instance frankincense, and some of those are very calming to the system. Citrus is more uplifting, like lemon and orange and those type of things are uplifting. So yeah, there's different aromas that will target different things too. And sometimes it's that you may end up and need one that, if you have a craving, fennel for instance, smelling that will end up, or putting a drop on your tongue, roof of your mouth, either one will help with fighting that sugar craving too.
I love that. So I have, the past couple of years, I have a master class on stress during the holidays and kind of how to deal with that. I'm going to roll that back out. And so do look for that opportunity to join the master class. Um, and kind of how we can attack this head on without failing. That doesn't mean that we're going to be totally abstain from it all, but how you can handle it. And there's a lot of tips in that master class of how to handle that stress and what you can do in different situations. And we brainstorm and we give you a lot of I give you a lot of tools to work with and things like that. Um, so maybe I should roll that back out,
Sounds like a good plan to me. Uh,
right?
as people are navigating into these last few months, there's still a
Yeah,
lot of the year left. What do you end up and want
yeah,
to fix by 26, right?
right. Well, and one of the things that I'm going through right now is I'm doing a meditative yoga. It's a 6 weeks, very immersive, meditative, very interesting. So she takes us pretty deep into the meditation part, and you would think like some of like people poo poo this, like it is very poor. This one lady last week, I didn't tell you this, Becky. She literally fell asleep. She was out so hard that she wouldn't we couldn't get her to wake up. Like for a minute, like we were all panicked for a minute, like, oh no. But she's also a mom of a baby, and she literally we finally got her woke up, but she really went out hard. But it's the last week was, we she kept prompting us as we were meditating, and I mean we're laying in a comfortable position, and she would bring us back to our breaths. And if your mind starts wandering, and she would ask yourself, what do you want to be? Ask you, how you want to look at things. I'm good. And it was all these little prompts that you would get to thinking about over and over. And she's like, your mind wanders. You come back to your breath, breathing in, breathing out. It's amazing what breath work can do. I know
Mhm.
you use tapping.
Yep. Let's just say breath work, tapping, red light, and anything along those lines. And I think yoga and doing what you're doing is great because as we
Yeah.
end up again shifting into these seasons, right, embracing the shorter days and moving into fall, when we have the shorter days, longer nights, that is the season to slow down and restore and realign ourselves. Summer is so go go go. It's active, right, and it's such a higher paced time. And obviously the days are longer, light is abundant, right? The metabolism and the energy and social rhythms, talking about things that get-togethers for the holidays, but the social activities, throughout the summer are more frequent. And so as we start to end up and make this biological shift, the cortisol, right? That's one of the things that the yoga is helping. That's the breath work, the
Yes.
tapping, all of this is helping is the cortisol side of things. And so that also starts to naturally lower earlier because the days end up and shift. And so it's preparing us for this longer night's rest. And a lot of people try to push beyond that. They try to end up and, push into the evening and maybe they're not going to bed earlier, right? They're not fully getting that, restore and realign, right?
Yeah.
And so the melatonin, when your cortisol lowers earlier, your melatonin rise starts sooner. And that's where the signaling for this repair and this deeper sleep. But why do I end up and I bring all this up? Because the leptin also. So we end up when the leptin
Yes.
sensitivity improves when you end up and eat with the light. And so eating earlier, right? Resting
Hmm.
when the dark, right? All of this ends up and makes a difference. And this is where our clocks need to end up and shift, not stay up late, not eating heavy meals after dark, right? Because not sitting, obviously I'm already in red light because it's dark outside. And so not flooding ourselves with a bunch of artificial light and fighting our biology because that will do nothing but create cravings.
Hmm.
It'll create fatigue and it also plays a role on our mood.
Yeah.
So, syncing with the seasons is going to play a strong priority and creating some of those non negotiables too, right? As much as I complain of the cold, it's it's also my season for cold exposure.
Mhm. Yeah. Well, and if you look at Halloween as giving yourself permission to play, to slow down, to tune in, to choose joy. None of what I just said was eat candy, right? None, right? What am I celebrating? Oh, how do I want to feel tomorrow uh, or Saturday when you wake up, right? That alone can shift the mindset. Um, think of it this way: candy is easy. Connection takes intention and choosing treats that nourish your body and your story. So whether you protein, like make a protein pack snack, um, move, a dance party, uh, gratitude, you're sitting around with your friends, and there's nothing wrong with looking at somebody. What did I text today? I was texting some friends today and saying, "Have a great Monday." Um, my beautiful friend, have a great Monday. I, I, I had so many responses back um, that it actually was very surprising. Um, but let your choices be a love letter, right, to your future self. You get to decide what Halloween means in your home and in your body and in your community. Traditions aren't fixed, right? They're living stories. You can rewrite them with a lot of fun and magic, right? That creates, oh, you remember last year when we did this and it had nothing to do with candy. Like people remember those moments over that who got the most candy in my bag. Um, empower, heal, energize. Those are the things that it is about self and loving yourself. And then let's get into the leftovers, right? How do you avoid that sugar crash because you have a ton of candy still sitting there? And are you building that resilience and the clarity and joy? Um, what are some thoughts you have, Becky?
Well, it's more the fact of do things that aren't going to end up and create guilt, right? Because you
Hmm.
don't want to end up and create this cycle of shame and guilt.
Yeah,
So, the memories matter, right? If that means allowing your kids to go trick or treating, eat before you go,
yeah,
right? Eat a good protein meal before you end up and you go out to trick or treat, because it was always a rule around here, right? That you don't go trick or treating until you can see the porch light. So,
yeah,
kids get home from school, eat an early supper, and then go out. Then you're full, right? You're not tempted by the treats and the snacks and everything. Focus on the enjoyment while you're out, not on the restriction, right? Not the Don't focus on the I can't have that. Focus on the
yeah,
kids running and screaming and racing porch to porch, all of those type of things. It's all about, again, how you are reframing it.
yeah.
I'm choosing what makes me feel good, not what makes me crash, right? So
Right.
again, even talking to kids about the awareness, not creating fear about foods, but just creating, that awareness around it. And make sure also
Right.
that you hydrate well. Taking
Oh, yeah.
electrolytes with you in the evening, and then come home after everything and take like a magnesium bath. All
Yes.
of that's
Oh,
going to end up and help with finishing the night off, right?
yeah. I just thought, oh, a bath.
I know, right?
Oh, yeah. I have a shower. That's
I
it.
would love to.
You have a shower
Me
too. You don't
too.
have a bathtub. Yeah, yeah. So we're both like, oh, wait a minute. let's
Right.
let's pause for a moment and think
But
about that.
even if you don't have a bathtub, coming home and getting like a basin that you can, soak your feet
Yeah,
in. Sorry, there's like
yeah,
a gnat flying around my computer here. Getting a basin and soaking your feet. Your feet are very porous, so
yeah,
you're gonna end up and absorb that magnesium from the magnesium flakes or Epsom salt. and
Right.
still have the benefits. So even if you can't submerge yourself into a bathtub, as wonderful as that sounds, I get it. I understand.
Right. Again, um, go into it ahead of time. Make your decisions ahead of time. That's the big thing. Use a code word, right? Um, Teach your community or your close friends that interpret that grab for that candy, right? And you could say something playful like, pause for the cauldron, or,
Mm.
witch please. And my best friend over here, which is you, um, would, you know, you could, act as that pattern disruptor, right? And then it's like, oh, hey, let's go over here and go for a walk. But only my friend knew those cues that I gave ahead of time. Um, Again, it's about enjoyment, right? It's not about. The problem is with these holidays is they're all based around food,
Mm-hmm.
and it's time to reframe that and enjoy. Life is short, and enjoy the people around you that you can build those memories with.
Yep. The smallest actions are going to end up and create the biggest reward. So, if you're looking for that reward, don't look at it through a small piece of candy. Look at it through
Right.
your small actions. The little steps are going to end up and accumulate and keep you running strong, keep your rhythm strong, keep your, circadian rhythm and just how you're feeling, right? And so really because of that it doesn't mean that you have to, hustle and chase your dream, but it's a case of keep showing up for yourself. One choice and one season is all we're working on. We're not looking, yes, we've spoke about the remaining months of the year, but really it's just this one choice. Get through this holiday, we'll tackle the next.
Right. Absolutely. You've got this. You have that in you. Again, keep something else in your hand so you don't feel like you have to grab that candy.
Mhm.
There are ways, there's tricks to kind of change your attention away from it. And you know what? If you want to give yourself permission to have that one piece of candy, like I do at Cookie Bake, it's like I'm going to have this one cookie, and again, I'm planning this and it's like clear towards close to Christmas this year. Like, and I've already, in fact, I had this planned out from last year. Like,
Yeah.
that's one of the treats that I allow myself throughout the year that, and I mean, I don't even care about my birthday. I don't care about my husband's birthday. Like, I don't even, like, none of that stuff matters. It's cookie bake. Like, I know what I'm going to do at cookie bake, but I have it planned out. And again, like I said, it wasn't as good as I thought it was.
That's how it kind of happens.
I know, right? Darn it. But again, I hope it gave you some good. What are you going to do with the kiddos? You're going to have some coloring and
Yeah, coloring, and the kids love it when turn Alexa on for a dance party. We'll have to have
yeah.
it inside. It's going to end up and be chilly and probably even rainy. We've had nothing but rainy and gloomy days. But that's all right. We'll have it in the kitchen, we'll have it in the living room, we'll have it somewhere. And then yes, we will probably still end up and make homemade cookies. But again, I end up and I know what's in it. So it's not the same, sugar filled, junk filled, pre made, cookie that you get at the grocery store. So we'll figure out something.
Absolutely. Well, we hope you walk away with a few tips and tricks and some a new mindset that you can go into this without falling off the rails. And you know what? If you fall off the rails, give yourself some grace. But the very next meal, the very next moment, you're back on track. And that's really a big key, isn't it?
It is. It's a huge key to jump right back. Your day's not ruined just by one meal.
Yeah,
So make it right back with the next one.
absolutely. So, What's happening next week? Well, guess what? You get 3 for the price of one. There's no price.
Hey, I tried to end up and make it this week, friends.
You did.
I tried to bring it to you early. That's what happens when I'm the one that typically doesn't plan and try to plan. I mess the weeks up. No, I didn't mess it up. It was just a case of I think
You were off a week.
I threw everyone for a loop. They're like, we still have one more week before it's the beginning of the month. So,
Yeah. So what's the beginning of the month, Becky?
well, it is the roundtable discussion, but it is also the day before my daughter's birthday. No. But yeah, it is our
Uh-huh.
roundtable discussion. So all three of us coaches will end up and be on there live. So if you have questions, make sure you submit those to us, and all three of us will weigh in on your questions.
Absolutely. Well, listen, have a good rest of your October. Have a good Halloween. And you know what? Make it a great week, the greatest week of the month, right? The last one. We've got this. And go into November strong. And we will see you guys next week. So don't forget to like and subscribe and comment. We do appreciate that very, very much. And we'll see you next week for the round table with 3 coaches.
Absolutely. Have a wonderful evening and